Welcome back to our channel where we provide updates and undisclosed narratives on Catherine, Princess of Wales and her royal family. We provide you with the exciting news: Camilla in tears over, Princess Alexandra hands Catherine the Queen Mother's jewelry. When Princess Alexandra handed Catherine the Queen Mother's private jewels and bypassed her, Queen Camilla was reportedly incensed, as said by a person with knowledge of the situation behind the scenes. This astonished the whole household. In this video, we will learn the reason why Camilla is so surprised, as well as the reason why Princess Alexandra has hidden the Windsor door in this move. A legacy bypassed. How Catherine got the Queen Mother's private jewels without going through a queen. In the rarefied realm of the British monarchy, where every gesture has importance and every ritual is a chapter in a national tale, the smallest gestures may have the biggest effects. Recently, something like this happened, although not in front of the public at a formal event. It happened in the quiet halls of power, where real impact is felt. The first sign was a little sparkle on the wrist of the Princess of Wales during an event at the Bath Children's Center. The diamond quatrefoil bracelet seemed like a lovely piece of jewelry to most people, but for those who know a lot about royal history, its presence was shocking. The late Queen Elizabeth II loved the bracelet so much that it used to belong to her mother, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. The Queen Mother's most personal and sensitive private jewels were given directly to Catherine, Princess of Wales. This was the first public indicator of a much bigger and secret event. Princess Alexandra, the late Queen's cousin and one of the Queen Mother's closest friends, arranged the changeover with great care, entirely avoiding Queen Camilla. This wasn't a mistake by the people in charge or a simple issue of family choice. Palace sources who want to remain anonymous have verified that the move was done on purpose to follow a secret and very personal order given by the Queen Mother herself. This order has just come to light now more than 20 years after her death. The decision has sent subtle but powerful shock waves through the institution, revealing a long-held view on the character required to safeguard the monarchy's emotional core and raising complex questions about Queen Camilla's place within the family's sentimental as opposed to constitutional lineage. This is the narrative of the covert transfer, the historical significance of the jewels, and the quiet drama it has caused in the House of Windsor. Part 1. The Secret Transfer and Why. Silence is important. The public only sees the surface of the royal family, which is a huge and complicated organization. They witness the big rituals, the waving from the balcony, and the well-planned excursions. The monarchy's actual existence, the one that creates its future and keeps its history alive, happens far away from the cameras in quiet drawing rooms, private discussions, and moments of trust that aren't recorded. The narrative of the diamonds started in this secluded space. At first, rumors spread among a small group of senior courtiers, private secretaries, and long-serving aides people who had spent their whole lives learning how to interpret the monarchy's hidden language. The rumor was quite clear: Princess Alexandra. The Honorable Lady Ogilvy had personally witnessed the transfer of a large number of the Queen Mother's secret jewels to the Princess of Wales. The way the material was handled made it so shocking. There was no press statement, no official scheduling notice, and most importantly, not a single item in the court circular, which is the official daily record of royal activities. This utter lack of a paper trail was not an accident. It was done on purpose at an institution where even the transfer of little historical objects is regularly recorded. It meant that the occasion was to be seen as a very private family affair that was off limits to official etiquette and public debate. People who work at the palace say that Princess Alexandra's job is quite important. She is now in her late 80s and is one of the last royals who had a close personal and lifetime contact with the Queen Mother. She wasn't just a relative. Everyone said she was their favorite. They had worked together for decades, had a strong family link, and understood the calm, steady service that was typical of their generation. The fact that Alexandra is in charge of carrying out this desire shows how much the Queen Mother trusted her judgment and ability to keep things private. People say that the transfer took place in a secret chamber at Clarence's house. The choice of location was full of meaning. The Queen Mother lived at Clarence's house in London for 50 years, from the death of her husband, King George VI, in 1952, until her own death in 2002. It was her safe spot, where she ruled in the gentlest way possible, keeping up traditions and the warmth that made her so popular. Anything you get within those walls is a link to her heritage. Getting her most intimate things from the hand of her most trusted friend was a wonderful blessing. People who know the worth of these diamonds realize that they are not just pricey toys. They stand for remembrance, not status. The Queen Mother had a lot of beautiful official jewels that she wore at royal dinners and coronations. This private collection was different. It included things her father, the Earl of Strathmore, gave her, things her husband gave her before and after he became king, and things from intimate friends whose names are not included in official histories. She wore them for private vacations at Birkhall tea with her grandkids or quiet times of thinking. They were linked to who she was, not what she did. The state jewels stand for responsibility. These personal gems stand for love, remembrance, and the continuation of a certain lineage, not of blood, but of character. And it is this difference that makes the transfer to Catherine and the bypassing of Camilla so very important. Part 2. The Jewels of a Queen and a Matriarch, a story of two collections. To fully grasp how serious the transfer is, you need to know the main difference between the two kinds of jewelry that the royal family has, the crown jewels and the personal jewels. The sovereign owns the crown jewels, which are part of the royal collection and are kept at the Tower of London. They are not personal property. They are emblems of the state that are passed down from one king to the next. There is also a huge collection of state jewels, which are tiaras, necklaces, and brooches that the king and queen wear for official business. The institution owns them. After that, there is the private collection. These are things that family members possess, and they may be acquired, given as gifts, or passed on to someone else according to the owner's preferences. The Queen Mother built up one of the most beautiful private jewelry collections in the world throughout her 101 years. She had an excellent eye and a great respect for workmanship, but what was most important to her was that jewelry was a way to remember things. When she died in 2002, most of her estate, including most of her major jewels, went to her daughter, Queen Elizabeth II. Over the years, many of these pieces were seen on Queen Elizabeth and then on Queen Camilla, who, as Queen Consort, was given access to many items from the late Queen's collection. However, a carefully chosen group of the Queen Mother's most personal things did not go back into circulation right away. No one knew where they were. This collection was distinct from the others. It included things from before she married into the royal family, relics from her own Bowes-Lyon family, and things whose history only she and her closest friends knew. Royal historians spoke about a pearl and diamond brooch that she loved and wore a lot when she visited hospitals and bomb sites during World War II to improve her spirits. For her wearing, it wasn't a show of luxury. It was a means to bring her own identity and history into the harsh realities of the present. Giving these things to someone else meant giving them the responsibility of keeping the personality alive that regarded kindness as a kind of authority and resilience as a moral imperative. The palace's silence on these precise things after her death was in itself a confirmation. In royal circles, not denying anything frequently speaks louder than a public declaration. The palace makes it clear when etiquette is involved. When it doesn't say anything, it means that the issue is private family business and not anything the monarchy should be involved in. Courtiers' advisors and experienced royal watchers saw that these gems were missing and knew that a long-term strategy was in the works. It was clear that Princess Alexandra wasn't just keeping them safe. She was doing it for a reason, waiting for the appropriate time and person. The Sealed Clause. The Queen Mother's Last Orders in Part 3. The Queen Mother's will explains how this important choice was made. The contents of the will are sealed like those of other senior royals so that the sovereign's family may keep their seclusion. But those who know how the estate was set up have said that there was a precise and enforceable clause, a confidential memorandum of wishes that decided what would happen to this specific collection of gems. This sealed edict was not just a recommendation, it was a command based on a lifetime of experience and a deep worry for the future of the monarchy. The Queen Mother had seen her brother-in-law, King Edward VIII, step down from the throne, which was a crisis that may have destroyed the monarchy. She is commonly thought to be the steadying influence that stood by her timid, stammering husband, King George VI, when he unwillingly assumed the throne. She helped him find his voice and his footing, and in doing so, she strengthened her view that the monarchy's existence hinged not on power or privilege, but on character, self-control, unswerving service, and the capacity to earn respect by dignity rather than edict. These events changed the way she thought about what the monarchy required in its future leaders. People who knew what was in her directive said that the directions were that this personal collection should be given to a future female family member who had a certain set of attributes. The recipient was to be a lady who showed 1. Service without self-promotion. A person who knew how important it was to do their public duty without trying to get acclaim or attention for it. 2. Dignity under pressure, the capacity to act with elegance and humility even while others are watching you closely. 3. A natural connection with the public, the ability to win people's hearts via kindness and honesty, not through planned performance. 4. A dedication to family continuity. A person who would be a stabilizing factor within the family and put unity and the long-term health of the family first. The Queen Mother had no idea who this person would be when she issued these instructions. Catherine Middleton had not yet become part of the royal family. The order wasn't about a single individual, but rather a character profile she thought was necessary for the monarchy to have emotional impact. She believed that character would show itself over time, and that Princess Alexandra, the person she had selected to be her guardian, would know who the proper successor was. Part 4. The Chosen Heir. Why Catherine Princess Alexandra watched for 20 years. She observed as the royal family dealt with the rough early years of the 21st century. She observed Prince Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles get married, and how Camilla slowly became a part of the family, and she watched as Kate Middleton, a young lady, married Prince William and slowly, carefully developed into her position as the future queen. Alexandra Catherine and other important people started to consider Catherine as the living embodiment of the Queen Mother's standards. Her public image wasn't founded on big speeches or spectacular events. Instead, she developed her reputation by being consistent and quietly dedicated. Her concentration on long-term initiatives, especially those that help young children grow, was similar to the Queen Mother's dedication to real, sometimes unglamorous philanthropic work. This is what many in Britain thought, and public opinion surveys showed it. Catherine was often at the top of polls as one of the royal family's most popular and trustworthy members. People liked her calm, controlled demeanor and the fact that they thought she was real. She gave off the impression of a lady who was down to earth, easy to relate to, and not bothered by the huge stress of her job. This consistency wasn't merely a personality trait. It was a strategic advantage for an organization that feeds on stability. Her reputation was just as powerful behind the scenes. People who worked closely with her said she was very patient and a good listener, who didn't try to take over talks or force her way on others. She knew how to get people to do what she wanted without being pushy, something the Queen Mother had mastered. People thought of her as a soothing and uniting force in the family, especially when there was conflict within the family. Sources say that the choice to skip Queen Camilla was neither a personal insult nor a judgment on her character. It was more of an acknowledgement of the distinct stories that have molded the public lives of the two ladies. Camilla's path to the throne was lengthy and intricate, and the monarchy's history made it hard for many people to understand. The Queen Mother, who was quite conservative, was known to be careful about anything that may be seen as threatening the crown's sacredness and the straight line of succession. Her instructions were based on her wish to see this sentimental legacy pass through the line of the future monarch from her to her daughter Queen Elizabeth II, and then to the wife of her great-grandson, the future King William V. This path strengthened the main line of succession and gave the emotional heritage of the family to the woman who would one day be queen alongside the direct heir. Catherine was not simply getting lovely diamonds. She was being officially named the guardian of a certain spirit, the spirit of dignified service, calm strength, and emotional connection that the Queen Mother thought was the monarchy's greatest value. Part V, the unspoken exclusion, and how a queen reacted. Queen Camilla didn't hear about the move via a formal family meeting. Instead, she heard about it through the quiet, uncomfortable whispers of a top assistant. It took a while for the news to get to the palace's internal channels, since the transition at Clarence House had been done so perfectly secretly. Not having any paperwork was a stroke of genius. It meant that there was nothing formal to argue with and no note to reject. To dispute the transfer would mean questioning the Queen Mother's intimate dying request, which would be unacceptable. People say that Queen Camilla's understanding was a very embarrassing and intimate moment. She had fought hard for years to gain her status, going from a contentious public figure to a respected queen consort. She had taken on hundreds of patronages, always stood by the king, and won over a lot of the press and people with her down-to-earth humor and strength. By all official standards, she had arrived. She could see the beautiful state jewels and several of Queen Elizabeth II's own things. But this was not the same. It wasn't about status. It was about feelings. These were the gems of the family's cherished matriarch, who was the ultimate emblem of emotional acceptance. Being turned over in favor of the younger Princess of Wales was a clear sign that there are differences that titles can't erase in the institution's lengthy history. People who knew her well noticed a change in her behavior. Even though she was calm in public, she was rigid and hurt in private. The occasion showed the two different ways that the monarchy accepts people: the official way, which is given by title and ceremony, and the emotional way, which is acquired through public adoration, and most importantly, the approval of the family's older statespeople. Camilla had done the first thing. The move meant that Catherine had gotten the latter. King Charles was put in a very tough position. He was torn between his tremendous love and commitment to his wife and his deep reverence for the heritage of his grandmother, a lady he loved very much. Sources say that he felt the stress personally. He asked questions to find out exactly what the order was and whether there was any chance to change it. His most trusted advisors told him in no uncertain terms that challenging the transfer would be a terrible mistake. It would start a public story of competition inside the royal family, with the new queen going up against the well-liked Princess of Wales. It would be regarded as Camilla trying to take an emotional legacy that wasn't meant for her, and the worst part is that the king would be seen as trying to go against his grandmother's last intentions. The safest, and perhaps the only thing to do, was to stay quiet. Being quiet showed respect and acceptance. Any open dispute would mean the reverse. Prince William made a clear decision on the issue. He thought the transfer was both right and proper, since he knew the history of the gems and what his great-grandmother stood for. He saw it as proof that his wife had been acting the right way for more than 10 years. He made it obvious via the right channels that he completely agreed with the judgment and thought the issue was over. His uncompromising attitude as the heir to the throne anchored the jewels where they now belonged and eradicated any remaining potential of a quiet reversal. What happened within the palace quietly made the problems between the families worse. The courts of King Charles and Queen Camilla at Buckingham Palace and Clarence House, and the courts of the Prince and Princess of Wales at Kensington Palace and Adelaide Cottage were formally working together, but they were now doing it with a new level of caution. The meetings went on and the timetables were worked out, but the mood had changed. The diamonds were a quiet reminder of where the family's heart was and where it will remain in the future. Part 6. The public debut and the power of a brooch. The diamonds were out of sight for weeks. Catherine, as usual, didn't show off her new fortune. Then, on a cool fall morning, the time had come. She goes to these kinds of community events hundreds of times a year, so this one was just like any other. She got out of her vehicle and walked with her usual calm assurance, smiling warmly at the people who were waiting. After that, the photographers saw it. A flowery cluster of pearls and diamonds pinned on the lapel of her garment was easy for royal historians and elderly people to recognize. For more than 50 years, the Queen Mother wore this brooch to many ceremonies. It was one of her most famous and often worn jewels. It was gone from public view after she died. It was returned after more than 20 years lying softly on Catherine's shoulder. Nothing new had occurred. In the statement issued by the palace, no context nor explanation was provided. It seemed as if the brooch had always been there for all intents and purposes. Through that move, which was completely silent, a powerful message was sent. In a couple of minutes, the photographs became popular on the internet. The footage was shown over and over again by the news channels, with the emphasis being placed on the brooch as it caught the light. Jewelry, at a period when it was intended to signify something rather than to dazzle, was characterized by a delicate and modest brilliance, which was characteristic of jewelry from that era. The reaction of the people was not one of surprise. Rather, they acknowledged it in a profound and forceful manner. It evoked recollections for senior citizens in the United Kingdom. They saw the Queen Mother as the nation's grandmother, a representation of the nation's steadfastness and affection. It was like meeting an old friend again when I saw the brooch on Catherine. It was reassuring, steady, and completely appropriate. Many people on the internet expressed their opinions about the passing of the torch. There were articles published in newspapers that were carefully phrased and discussed continuity and respect for tradition. On the inside of the palace, the sight was far more impressive. The moment that Princess Alexandra saw the brooch being worn in public marked the end of a service that she had been doing for 20 years in a calm and collected manner. The promise that she had made to a woman that she loved and respected came to an end at that moment. His Majesty King Charles was presented with a challenging but ultimately gratifying sight. It was the brooch that connected the past that he cherished with the future that he is constructing. It was a clearly apparent demonstration that the generation that comes after him would continue to uphold the values and passion of his grandma. There was no mention of the brooch made by Catherine herself. As is her custom, she carried out her duties with the same level of fervor and sophistication, and she listened more than she talked. She did not make any effort to exert control over the meaning of the gesture. Rather, she allowed it to develop naturally in the minds and hearts of all who saw it. This is what made the gesture so powerful. She did not experience feelings of pride or victory. Rather, she was aware of the responsibility that had been bestowed upon her. The appearance of the brooch could hardly be considered the climax of the story. Rather, it was only the beginning. The first thing to emerge from the closed boxes that contained the Queen Mother's most intimate recollections was the item in question. Its first appearance demonstrated that even if titles and crowns may be carried down in a rigorous line of succession, the emotional core of the monarchy is a legacy that is given rather than transmitted down via the generations. Despite the fact that she had never met her, the Queen Mother had made certain that her legacy would live on via a woman whom she felt would one day become a powerful figure. Catherine was the recipient of her trust and confidence. It was now time for the diamonds to find a place to call home. Thank you for watching the video. Please let us know your thoughts and goodbye for now.